Welcome back to Sim Right Fashion Academy YouTube channel for another interesting tutorial. In this tutorial, I'll be teaching you how to make this beautiful structure detail on dresses. So you can actually design this detail to your taste. You can make any style of your choice, but the principle remains the same. So if you look at what I have right here, you can see I have a beautiful design right here. So to begin this tutorial, I'll be making use of my doll face satin fabric. So you can use any fabric of your choice for this structure. And here I have my appliques. Then I have my cup chain too. That's if you want to use your cup chain for embellishment. I have my Regling boning or the sewable boning. So the Regling boning is 0.5 inch. So now I've cut out my fabric, as you can see, and the width of my fabric measures 2 inches. So I cut a very long length and I cut many of them. So I'm going to use this fabric for my encasement, encasing the Regling boning. So the length can be as long, it depends on the design you want to make actually. So but for this particular length, I'm using 33 inches length and I'm using 2 inches width of my strip. So the Regling boning, you are going to also take the measurement of your Regling boning. Like I said, I'm using 0.5 inch Regling boning or sewable boning. So now I'm going to pick up my piece of strip right now and I'll fold it into 2 equal parts. So once I fold it, I'll be having 1 inch and I'm going to sew before after 0.5 inch. So my Regling boning is 0.5 inch, but I'm not going to sew exactly at 0.5 inch. I'll sew after 0.5 inch. So I want to demonstrate to you what I mean. So first I'm going to close up the down piece and top stitch. So one part of the channel will be closed. Then I drop my presser foot and I'm going to take my measurements. I'll first take 0.5 inch, the line after the 0.5 inch. I'm going to sew from that point all the way down. So what I'm doing is creating a casing for my Regling boning. So I'll just sew down till I get to the end of my strip, and I'm going to do that for the rest of the strips. So now one part of the channel is closed, like I said. I'm going to use my screwdriver to turn, or if you have your loop, you can also use your loop turner to turn it. But I have my screwdriver here. I'll just insert it there and quickly turn the channel. Okay, so I'll just turn it as you can see me do right here. So after turning it, then I'm going to make so many casings depending on this design you are making. So I'll make so many, as much casings as possible using the same pattern of stitching. So here I'm done with my casings. I have 4 pieces of them. I will even make more of them. So I'll bring my Regling boning right now. So right now I'm going to insert my Regling boning into the casings and I'm going to insert them one after the other. Like I said, my Regling boning width is 0.5. So the casing has to be a little bit bigger. That was why I have to stitch after 0.5, the line next to it. So here I will insert till I get to the end of my Regling boning, as you can see right there, and I'm going to cut off the excess. So I'm going to use this same pattern to insert the rest of my boning. So here I have all the bonings inserted right now. So now I have all the lengths which I've made. I've inserted my Regling boning. So you can go over to your ironing table and iron the bonings if you want. So but here I'm not going to iron them. I'm going to work with them like that and iron later. So the length I have here is 18 inches. So I'm going to make 18 inches length for the vertical structure, the first structure, because we have 2 structures right here. So the first structure, I'm using length of 18 inches where I marked, and I'm going to cut it out. So this length of 18 inches is going to be the starting point of our structure. So I'm going to have two of them at length 18 inches. So you can see me marking 18 inches. You can even make it longer, like 20 inches, depending on what you want to make. So here I'm going to cut it off. As you can see, the 18 inches, we are going to use it to start up this boning structure. So now I have the length of the first starting point. So I'm going to also cut out the boning into 2.5-inch piece each, which I'm going to use to cross the length of the structure. So I'm marking 2.5, after 2.5, half an inch, another 2.5, half an inch, and I'll go over to my machine and top stitch on them. So I'm done top stitching on them, and I'm going to cut them on the markings I have in between the markings. Okay, so I have to top stitch on it just to secure the boning in the casing. So now I will start up the sewing of the first one. I'm going to place the short length of boning and top stitch on them. So you can see how I'm placing them. That is how I'll keep placing them and keep top stitching and double stitching. So here on the machine, I just want to show you how I'm going to stitch it. So I'll just go over to my machine now, and I'm going to place the short boning on top of the long one, and I'm going to stitch at the edge and double stitch, then place the next one. I'm also going to stitch on it. So I'm done stitching. This is my first channel, or the first detail. So I'm going to double stitch on it to make it a little more firmer. So after stitching and making it firmer right now, we will take the measurement of 7 inches. From that starting point, 7 inches or 6 inches is fine. Then I'm going to mark that 7 inches on the two long lengths, the two starting lines. I'll mark 7 inches or even 6.5. I'll just mark it like that. Then bring the shorter length of the boning again, and I'm going to use it to cross it too. So the boning shorter length is 2.5. You can make it 2 inches too. So I'll keep top stitching. As you can see, just like I top stitched the upper one, that is how I'm going to top stitch the lower one too. So I will keep top stitching them and double stitching. So the reason why we are double stitching is to make it firm. So make sure it's firm and is neat as well. So after sewing the first row, we have about 5 rows there. Okay, so I'm going to get the rest of the lengths, and I'm going to show you how to stitch them. So this is the first structure, and I'm going to measure from the beginning of that structure, the one I've made. I'll measure 2 inches and mark. You can even measure 1.5 inch or even 3 inches depending on your design. Then I'll place the short boning on top. I keep placing them on top. So I'm going to stitch on it and double stitch. Just use the same method of stitching. Just keep the short boning on top and stitch. Then after that, I'll bring in another length. And this length, I did not take the measurement. But what I'm going to do is, after stitching, I'm going to measure it with the one I've already stitched and then cut it off. So I'm trying to stitch on top of it very, very firmly by double stitching on it. So now I'll also cross the second layer. So I'll just take the measurement from what I have there, 3 or 4 inches. As you can see me measure there, I'll go over to my presser foot, and I'm going to stitch and double stitch. So I'm done stitching and making it firm. Then I'll now bring the third length closer to brace it. So this third length, I'll also keep it below it, and then I'm going to top stitch, and I'm going to also double stitch on it as well. So here I'm making it firmer, as you can see. So like I said, the third line, the third one, I didn't take the measurement of the length of the boning, because I made a very long casing of boning and I inserted my Regling boning on it. So what I'm going to do now is to measure it and cut it off. So you can see that the third one is longer. So I'll just make it the same length with the rest of the first two I started with. So I'm going to also start the third one. I'll take 1.5 inch for the third channel. So you can also take 2 inches as well. So I'm also going to stitch and double stitch, and I'll keep descending like that, like that, like that, till I get to the end of it. So I just want to show you how I'm stitching this boning. You know, we have double of it, one on top of it. Although it's a sewable boning, but it might be difficult for you to sew. So what I did is I'm holding it on the other part and dragging it. So just hold it and drag it so it will be easy for you to stitch. That is how I stitch the rest of them. So now I'm done. I just made 4 channels. You can make 5 channels as you want. So this is what I have, and you can see it's actually looking very beautiful. So you can now go ahead and iron it if you want. But before we iron it, we have a lower base which we want to make right now. There is one of the boning that is at the lower base, and I've already cut the boning for the lower part of it, and I cut it at 17 inches length for each of them. I have 4 of them, but you can also do 5 pieces of it. So now I'm also going to cut the part that I'm going to brace at 5 inches. Just cut out another one 5 inches and cut another one at 10 inches. You can also cut the smaller one 3 inches or 7 inches depending on how close you want the channels to be. So I just go over to the machine and place them the way I'm placing right now. So for the 5 inches length, I'll place the longer 17 inches and stitch and double stitch. Then I'm going to gap them at 2 inches or 1.5 inch. You can even gap them very, very closely. It all depends. If you look at the thumbnail, you can see the one we have is gapped very, very closely. Okay, so I'll keep placing them on top of the short boning which I'm using to brace, and I'll keep using the same method of stitching and double stitching till I get to the end of that one. This is the part that is going to be at the center front. So I'm going to also turn it the other way and sew the longer length of it. So the longer length of it is the 10 inches which I just cut. You can make it 7 inches or shorter as you want. So I'm going to straighten them. So this one, I want to make a triangle with it. So since I want to make a triangle, I'm going to measure 2.5 inches gap or 2 inches gapping. And I'll raise my presser foot and I'm going to stitch and double stitch. I will keep measuring the gap. So make sure the gappings are the same with each other. So I'm using 2.5 inches, 2.5 inches for it, or you can use 2 inches for it as well. So I'll keep top stitching, raising my presser foot and stretching the boning, taking the measurements to be sure they are equal. Then I'll double stitch on the other part as well. So I'm going to make sure I double stitch the rest of them. So after that, I will now bring another one that will brace it in between. I'll just insert it under there, and then I'm going to use it to brace the rest of them. So I'll now stitch the way you see me stitch right there. So I'll just stitch on one part of it and then raise my presser foot like that, till I get to the end of it as well. So after bracing it right now, I will go over to the ironing table to iron the first one. So the part I want to iron is the first one we made, the structure that will be on the vertical. Okay, for this last one, I'm not going to iron it. I will leave it that way. So if you're ironing, please make sure you use your steam iron. If you don't have, you can place a piece of fabric with steam and it gives you the same result. So I will just make sure I iron this boning and make it straight the way I want, or unless you don't want to make it straight, if you want it curvy the way it is on the thumbnail, you can also make it like that. But I'm going to iron it out. So here I'm done ironing. You can see how straight it is, but this part, this second one, I did not iron it because I just want it curvy on the waistline like that. So I'm going to place the lower one on top of the first one I made, and I'm going to stitch and double stitch. Okay, so just arrange it the way you just want it to be. I'm making only one structure. You can make what I'm doing right here, you can make 2 times of it and have it on the right and on the left side of the dress. So now I'm bracing using the vertical one and the horizontal one. So I'll just keep stitching, bringing the vertical one very close like that. So just go ahead and be creative with your design. So the way you arrange them, that is how it's going to come out. But for tutorial purpose, I'm just going to arrange it the way you see right there, and it's the same principle for whatever arrangement you want to make for this beautiful dress. So here you can see me stitching right away. So I will stitch to the end of it. After stitching to the end of it, I'll go over to the other parts and I'm going to stitch them accordingly. So here I'm done stitching and I just want to cut out the excess boning. So if you want to really have a neat work, just cut out excess boning. So I just feel like cutting, the bracings are too much. That is, to me, the line crossing are too much. But it all depends on you. Okay, if you want to leave it the way it is, fine and good. You can embellish very, very well. But I'm going to cut off those bracings. I feel they are too much for me, so I'll just keep cutting till I'm satisfied, and I'll just leave the ones I want to be the way it is. Okay, so we are gradually coming to the end of this tutorial anyway. So the next thing we want to do now is to start embellishments. So for the embellishments, after cutting, I'm using my uhu gum. So please make sure you use your uhu gum. You can see my uhu gum right there. So the uhu gum is a very good gum. That is why I'm encouraging you to make use of it, because it will stick your applique very well and it will last a long time. So you can use any applique of your choice. You can use an applique that can cover the channels very well. You can even bead on it if you want. You can use stacking stone and all that. Okay, so you can use your applique or whatever you choose to use to decorate this structure. So I'm going to apply my uhu gum and stick my applique on these lengths. Then I'll also cover the horizontal lengths. In fact, wherever I have the channels, I'm going to cover them accordingly. So that is exactly what I'm doing right here, as you can see. So make sure you come out with a very beautiful work, and then attaching it to the dress, you are going to either stitch on your machine or you can also hand tack. So here you can see I'm done with the lengths, the horizontal and the vertical lengths. I'm going to cut short lengths of applique to cover the short parts channels. Okay, the parts that I used to cross, I'm going to cut short applique for them. So once I'm done with it, we will now attach it to the dress, but I'm not going to do that right here. I'm just showing you how to go about it. So you can see this structure is trending and it's very beautiful, and I believe you learned a lot from this tutorial. So this is what it looks like at the back, and what it looks like at the front. So if you are new to this channel, please kindly subscribe and turn on your notification bell to receive more videos. Thank you.